Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. This is your latest Tottenham transfer news, views and clues and all things Tottenham update today. It is game day. It is Wednesday, October 29th, I believe. I hope you guys are all capable, outside of being healthy and happy, I hope you're all capable of doing me some favours. Please smash the like button if you enjoy this content. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell if you want to see more of the dog. And drop a comment, let me know your thoughts on today's topics. Let's get into it. Back of an envelope, literally back of an envelope settings this morning. Archie Gray. Sad news for Archie Gray. It's broken this morning that he has come down with an injury in training. We don't know what the injury is, but apparently, according to reports, he is out for 8 weeks. The injury must have happened yesterday in training because it wasn't mentioned in Thomas Frank's pre-match press conference. But if it's true, then another one bites the dust. We are cursed with our injuries at Tottenham Hotspur. It doesn't matter what the manager is, what the training resume is. We seem to get them all the time. We're down to 11 players out. We're down to 15 fit first team players that are available at the moment. And that's outfield players, by the way. Not a good thing, especially as we walk into a really, really pressurised and difficult set of fixtures starting this evening up at St James's Park. What do we do without Archie Gray? Well, look, obviously we have got players that can come in Lucas Berghvall and Pape Sarr predominantly in the midfield. You might see a promotion again to Luca Williams-Barnett onto the bench for tonight or for Chelsea on Saturday. And of course, the other consideration then is what does that mean for our fullback issues? If Archie Gray was playing fourth choice fullback and we're already out without Destiny Udogie, then one more injury to Jed Spence and to Pedro Porro, and we are right up the creek without a paddle, ladies and gentlemen. It is very, very frustrating and very sad for him. I was hoping he was going to get some more minutes over the next couple of games at least, but we shall see. Good luck to him on his recovery. If it's true, it's not been confirmed by the club, but it has been poking around on social media this morning. Let's move on to lots of transfer news, views and clues this morning, guys. Lots and lots of them. First of all, Richalison. We spoke about him yesterday in his potential desire to return to Everton. That's still on and it's still floating around all of the different aggregators and the different news items this morning. But on top of that, there's also stories out saying that Flamengo of Brazil fame in Serie A in Brazil are doing everything they can to raise the funds to be able to make a move for Richalison in the summer post the World Cup. It wouldn't be something that happens in January. I doubt the Everton move would either, although maybe when you look at Everton's capabilities, their balance, everything that they have is looking very strong. They just need a striker that can put the ball in the back of the net. Is Richarlison that guy? I'm not entirely sure. But listen, he loves Everton. Everton love him. And maybe there is that opportunity for him to move in January should Tottenham get one of any of these other names that are being percolating this morning. And I'll start with an exciting one for you. Jean-Philippe Mateta of Crystal Palace fame. That is poking around across Court Offside, Football Insider, and a bunch of other, I guess we'll call them medium tier aggregate, like the top end of the aggregators, the top end of the bottom tiers, if you know what I mean. And listen, I don't know what to make of it, but a really interesting story, a really interesting name. I mean, I love Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's another one of these late bloomers, isn't he? A player that kind of was doing nothing when he first got into the Premier League, kind of emerged overnight, and then it's just become something unbelievable under Oliver Glasner. And you can kind of see that potential transition, an Oliver Glasner coaching method into a Thomas Frank and the Cochrane coaching method. Could you see that continuation in his improvements in his performance? I think you could. I think he would suit Tottenham. I think Tottenham could do a lot worse than Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's so broad, he's so physical, he's so strong, he's so fast. And he's someone that's really caught the eye of the Premier League. And I'd be very surprised if Palace were to let him go in the January transfer window. I think his contract is out in 2027. And the story is essentially based around the fact that it will be very difficult to see him leave in January, but they might be forced to let him go in the summer if they can't get him to sign a new contract, which is their first intention. They don't want to let him go, but with 1 year left on the contract, they might have to kind of eat some humble pie. Although with Steve Parish, you know what happens with those sorts of negotiations. He is not someone that you usually come away from the negotiation table without a few wounds. Sort of Daniel Levy style, but with a sort of different flavour, if you like. I think we should talk a little bit, guys, about the next name on the list, which is Mason Greenwood of Marseille fame, ex-Manchester United player. I won't go into too much of the details of his story. I'm sure you guys are all aware of the complications and the problems that he had a couple of years ago. He decided to get out of Dodge. He had to be released. Well, Manchester United decided to release him. He went to, or to suspend him, was it initially? Sorry, and then he eventually went to Marseille. And look, he's done fantastically well over there. 8 goals and 4 assists already this season has Mason Greenwood. A valuation of £35 million according to reports. And he has a lot of options around Europe. People are looking at him from Spain. Atletico Madrid would like to have him. Lots of teams in Italy would like to have him, and in Germany as well. But his preference apparently is to come back to the UK, to the Premier League. And according to these reports, also in the likes of Court Offside and Football Insider, that Tottenham Hotspur and West Ham are taking a serious look at this one. And look, for me, I think this one is too difficult to do for all of the wrong reasons. But the player, if you can separate the player from the energy around the person, or at least the energy that person will receive from a baiting and baying, away crowd. Everywhere he goes, he would be, if he was back in the Premier League, he would be under the scrutiny and the spotlight of some very nasty receptions, I would imagine. But the player is absolutely phenomenal. There's no doubting the player's talents. I just don't think it will happen. I don't think it would be a good look for the any football club in the Premier League. I think if you think about what happened with Thomas Partey, the club obviously got over their own problems with that one and allowed it to happen. But obviously, today's news, or tomorrow's news, is today's chip paper, right? So people kind of move on and forgive and forget after the deed is done, after the player has left. But there was a lot of issues with regards women's rights groups, campaigning groups and things that were basically throwing the club, asked them under the bus, saying that we got in touch with them, saying that how can you have this player on the team? It's a disgusting thing to do, etc. And so I would imagine that there would be a similar PR disaster, probably even amplified, in the reverse situation with Mason Greenwood coming to a team in the Premier League like Tottenham or West Ham, simply because whether or not the charges were filed in the end, whether or not he was actually prosecuted and found guilty of any crimes. In fact, to even sort of maybe show some sympathy towards his side of the story just for a second, he is still with the girl, and I think that they now have a family together. So, it's a kind of happy ending to an ugly situation. But I think that, on that one, possibly, I don't know, it's a difficult thing to say, isn't it? My personal take is, as good as the player is and as amazing as he would probably become in a team in the Premier League, playing at the highest level, and what he could amplify in terms of the output and the possibilities for success for a team like Tottenham, I just think there's a little bit too much water under that bridge, and a little bit too much... too many problems from a PR perspective for any club. My priority is obviously Tottenham Hotspur. I would imagine that one's going to be difficult. You see, I'm even struggling to get my opinion across here because it's a sensitive topic. At the end of the day, he wasn't found guilty of a crime. He's still with the girl, and they have a family now. So on the one hand, that should be the end of it. But on the other hand, most of us probably listened to that alleged audio clip. Right? It didn't sound good. Anyway. Mason Greenwood's a story. Let me know your thoughts on that one, and please do, but be sensitive in the comment section, please. The next story for us, guys, is Samu Agahawa. So we've spoken about him ad nauseum. 21 years old, Porto player. Apparently Tottenham are front and centre really interested in this guy. That Newcastle have looked at him in the summer but decided to walk away based on the asking price that was put around. I think it's £100 million, £85 million, give or take. Release clause is being asked for that particular player, but Porto won't get anything like that. In fact, what Tottenham are looking at doing, according to these reports, and Fabio Paratici is leading the charge, trying to convince Porto to essentially let us have him on a loan with an option. Look, if you can do that, if Fabio Paratici can find the right words in the right order and the right amount of loan fee to allow that to happen, I'm all for it, 100%. I've always said to you guys, I think that every deal in an ideal world would be a loan with an option. As long as you get the first dibs on the option, as long as the loan fee isn't ridiculously prohibitive and that the option is a fair price as well, then You should always try before you can buy, especially with players that are coming from leagues where there's a sort of a track record, a history of outperformance there and then underperformance when they get to the Premier League. In an ideal world, yeah, everything would be that way. But why would Porto, unless the loan fee was serious money, why would Porto allow their best up-and-coming talent leave the club mid-season just without the guarantee of getting any juice out of the squeeze at the end of the season from a permanent obligation? It'll be interesting, but like I say, I think the detail there is how much is the loan fee worth, what does the option look like, and if that was possible and plausible and Porto were okay with that, then I'd be really on board it, because I think that the player is really interesting. I think he's a very, very talented kid. He's very athletic. He fits the sort of model of a footballer that you think would do well or more likely to do well in the Premier League. However, I still have these concerns about the fact that most of the goals that he scored in Portugal have been against bottom half teams with players in their squads that you probably wouldn't have heard of, certainly not any household names. And so it's just one of those, like, unless you're doing it at the very highest level, you know, in European football and against the best teams in Portugal, is it one of those horses for courses, flat trap bully type things? And I don't think it is. I think he's a very good player, but like I say, difficult to kind of know for sure, and probably going to want £50 million. Do you want to tie yourself to another 5 or 6 year deal with a player that may or may not become great? But there's a lot of unknowns. There's always risk. If you're not taking risk, you're taking a risk, as Thomas Frank said. But that's the story there for Samu Agahawa. Let's move back to Dusan Vlahovic. You spoke about him yesterday, guys. Dusan Vlahovic, well, it wasn't just yesterday's news from the aggregators that were saying that Paratici is going to go in there and try and do a swoop for £15 to £20 million in January. This morning, Christian Falk of Bayern fame is talking about it as well, saying that Bayern Munich have been interested, were looking, but have subsequently walked away because the deal, the merits of the deal don't make sense financially to Bayern Munich. But he said that Tottenham Hotspur are front and centre. So he's someone that when he talks, at least from a Bayern perspective, if he's giving that extended kind of value there to the commentary, saying that he thinks that Tottenham are front and centre, then I'll listen to that. I'll take it on the chin, and I'll be interested. What do you think about Dusan Vlahovic? Another one. It's another one of these kind of, it's not clear, it's not clean. Is it a guaranteed success? Absolutely not. Does his salary become prohibitive at £200,000 a week? Possibly. Does he deserve it? Probably not. Sorry about Bugsy, she's back, but she doesn't realise she's got to bring the ball to me when I'm doing these things. Bless her. She'll get over it in a minute. Other stories for you guys. Ivan Toney is the next name on the list. We've talked about this, haven't we? It's back in the favour, even though it's been poo-pooed by essentially everybody that's in the know for the last 2 weeks of saying it's not happening. It won't go away, and that there is still some sort of life left in that particular story. Tottenham, Chelsea, and one or two other clubs are all trying to figure out a way to see if they can get him on loan and to essentially cover half of the salary. So it will be something like 200 grand a week. There, she's done it now. She figured it out. 200 grand a week for the rest of the summer, or rest of the season rather, and then Al Hilal will pick up. I think it's Al Hilal, or is it Al Nassr, or is it Al Ittihad? Wherever they are, wherever he is, it's they will pick up the other half, which begs the question why. Like, why would they want to let their player go but they still pay half of their wages? Makes it particularly difficult. Also, I'm pretty sure, for what it's worth, that there is this ruling. Someone reminded me the other day that if a player was to leave, if a player was to leave Saudi Arabia and come directly back into the Premier League, then do they then? I think there's a ruling. Forgive me, I'm not sure. I'll have to check this out for tomorrow's update. But that they have to forego their tax-free status if they go back within a year, or they have to spend a year away from Saudi Arabia without playing football before they can get their tax. Otherwise, they owe a significant tax bill at the end of their time there. All of these things make it complicated. Like I say, I don't think it's going to happen. I would love to see it happen. I'd be okay if there was a way to get the 50% salary done, 200 grand a week. Okay, we're in that world now, right? We're sort of moving towards breaking that £200 wage threshold. I think Ivan Toney would be the best of the available talent that's out there. It is a dry market, and if we could do it, great. But will it happen? I seriously doubt it. Let me know your thoughts. And is there another story for you guys? There is, of course. There's always another story on the Spurs Talk Show. What about Kevin Schade, the Brentford winger / attacker, super fast player, a big fan of his. He is again on the lips of Tottenham Hotspur transfer zeitgeist journalists this morning, saying that Thomas Frank is very much interested, very much looking at him and will try his best to do something in the January window. I'd be very surprised if you would price him away from Brentford, given that he is one of their kind of last remaining superstars. He's created a very nice relationship with Thiago in the early days of that kind of budding partnership up there. And he's had a few injury problems in the past, but he's back now. He's back. He seems to be putting those behind him. That's the other problem, though, isn't it? When you're looking at players about bringing them into Tottenham Hotspur, and you know that they are fit recently, but historically have been on the injury table many times. You just know that those days are going to recycle the second that they come to Tottenham. And that's the problem for me. But it is what it is. You know, it is what it is. Tottenham do have to break this curse with injuries. It's crazy. It's crazy how bad we are with it. Anyway, Sade coming to Tottenham. I mean, I like the player. I really do like the player. I think he's super fast. But Tottenham aren't playing in that traditional system. And we're trying to do it away from home. We're capable of doing it. And actually, it works well away from home for the most part. We win a corner if you can't get the ball in. In fact, I've been saying this for a while now. I think that part of the tactic is actually to win a corner rather than whip the ball into the box, which allows our midfield to then set up for set pieces. But with someone like Kevin Sade, you can do that stuff on the counter. But is he a player that's going to benefit mainly from being a transitional player? Does that solve our issues at home? I'm not sure. At home, we need to find a way to be able to break teams down better who are sitting deep. And when we do horseshoe football, it really isn't... we haven't figured that one out yet. But then a lot of the big teams haven't, right? Arsenal struggled to do it when teams put in low blocks against the best teams in the game. The best teams have to find a way to break them down. And I think the defending of those against those teams is improving quicker than the ability for the best teams to be able to figure out the loopholes in that system at a relativity kind of ratio. And so the natural conclusion is to, if you can't beat them on the footballing pitch, then do it in a different way, which is going to set pieces, which is why Arsenal are pivoted in that direction. And obviously Tottenham are trying to as well. And maybe other big teams will start to follow suit. It becomes like a bit of a kind of a game of cat and mouse, doesn't it, with regards to the tactics of breaking down low blocks. Anyway, Kevin Sade, for me, I like him. Does he excite me? Not massively. Am I conscious of the difficulty of the January transfer window? 100%. Am I concerned by the fact that Malik Fofana is going to be out injured for a long time, and that in all likelihood Semenyo's a no deal in January? Yildiz is going to be very difficult. Antonio Nusa is going to be very difficult. Even Iliman Ndiaye, who we speak about on this channel quite a lot and very favourable position on, that's going to cost £70 million or so to get him out. So is it going to be a situation where we are like settling for a player that we don't really consider to be in our top 7 or 8 dream realistic targets, and go for someone below? Or do we have to just wait it out and get through until the summer, where the market becomes a little bit more open and there's a better chance post the World Cup, where lots of craziness always happens? I'm not sure. It is what it is, guys, but I'll leave it there. Those are the stories. In terms of Newcastle United this evening, listen, I was probably I was thinking about going up there. I was very close to getting up this morning and getting up to Newcastle. Didn't end up happening. I've got a feeling we're going to do it, you know. I've got a feeling we're going to do it on penalties or something. I think we can sneak it. I think if we get steady, if we just do what we do. And part of me, guys, has... Why have I just thrown both balls at the same time? Stupid. Part of me has this desire to keep our away form going, our unbeaten record away from home. If Tottenham can't create a fortress at home, then let's be like the Vikings, where we pillage and we plunder and we do the other thing everywhere we go, where everybody sits there and goes, oh no, we've got Tottenham at home on the weekend, because we're that terrifying. Everywhere we go, we take scalps and we take the points. And that, for me, is like an exciting narrative that we can build and yield and kind of grow together. But it requires us to get past this tricky obstacle. A lot of the Tottenham fans are probably saying sacrifice the Newcastle game, because Chelsea, the rivalry, the league points, all of that stuff is far more important than the Carabao Cup. And traditionally, I would 100% agree with you, because of the kind of proximity between sort of being third and being 10th is like only a couple of points, and so every point counts. But I genuinely think that this is our only one of 2 realistic chances of an of a cup this year. We're not going to win the Champions League. We're not going to win the Premier League. And I think even if you were to go full strength tonight, you didn't, other than the fan reaction from possibly losing at home to Chelsea that will be mental, I think that you could recover from 3 points dropped against Chelsea in a worst case scenario. But if you lose tonight because you've gone weak, then we're down to one realistic chance of cup success this year. And I think if we get past Newcastle, we've got a really good chance. We've got a really good chance of getting into the semi-final. Quarter-final draw against one of the three weaker teams. And then in the semi-finals, you know, our away form is strong enough to be able to take anybody on and get a result there, and then come back home, and hopefully by then we'll have improved our home form, and things can look positive and rosy. Let me know your thoughts, guys. I'm going for a 2-1 victory to Tottenham Hotspur. Set pieces, Micky van der Ven. Like, subscribe and comment, and as always, bye-bye.